big data analytics, big data, we need to store a large volume of data. So in the year 1998 itself, Carlo Strozzi, he used the term NoSQL for a lightweight open source relational database. Right, so we'll study the features of NoSQL databases in today's class. We'll also study the different categories of NoSQL databases. Right. To start with, let us discuss something about big data. So what do you mean by big data? So, yeah.
Like
So,
getting and storing data that are too large.
right. So we have many properties for big data. So one property is, as Saloni said, that you are going to store large data. So what's the size of large? What do you mean by large data, Saloni?
So I'm not sure how large, but
Yeah,
for
right,
not in like ordinary computing devices. So it should be
right,
stored somewhere else.
right. So we talk only in gigabytes, terabytes of data, right? So normally we work with some data sets which may be of megabytes and so on. So whenever you work with gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes of data, we say that it's going to be large data. So what are the other characteristics of big data? Right. So we have other characteristics of big data, which is going to be variety. So we generally big data is characterized by three V's: volume, velocity, and variety. So volume, as Saloni said, that we are planning to work with a large volume of data. It's one of the characteristics of big data. You work with gigabytes of data set which is of gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes, and so on. So it implies that you are working with big data. The other characteristics is like variety of data, right? So even now in database, you may be working with only relational data, where you have like will be we can use it to store normal financial data, customer information, transactional data, right? So maybe you can store temporal data, right? So you are going to store data with some timestamp. Whereas in the case of big data, we are going to work with both structure, not only structured data, but semi-structured data, unstructured data, right? So text document is an example for unstructured document, unstructured data, right? So whenever I need to store some text document in a database, it means that we are going for some unstructured data. So again, right, social media, for example, you work with some social media websites like Facebook, you get some different types of data that is being generated at a particular time, right? So you upload a video, right? So you can comment on that particular video, right? So you upload images, right? So it contains text data, audio data, video data, image data, and so on. So to work with this heterogeneous data, we need to go for yeah, big data analytics framework, right? So it's characterized by a variety of data. And the third characteristics is like a velocity of data, right? So what I mean by velocity of data is like data is generated continuously at a very high speed, right? So for example, we are collecting some data from some sensors, right? So from IoT devices, right? So the data is generated at a continuous velocity, right? So you need to store this type of data that is being generated at a continuous velocity. Then we need to go for some specialized databases, and that's why we go for NoSQL databases, right? So you have your course, elective course, data analytics, in the next semester, where you will be studying NoSQL in detail, right? So one unit you will be studying NoSQL again, right? So So even last year we started working with, last 2 years we are working with NoSQL in lab classes. So I thought that one lab exercise will be how to work with NoSQL. So we'll be using some MongoDB to work with NoSQL, right? So MongoDB or NoSQL can be used to store this big data, right? So where data is characterized by voluminous data, variety of data, data containing both structured, semi-structured, quasi-structured, and unstructured information, and velocity data with which is generated at a high velocity, and so on. Right. So to start with, let us study the features of NoSQL databases and categories of NoSQL databases in today's class. So let me share you the presentation. Right. So the screen is visible, right? So
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes.
right. So NoSQL